What's the most fiercely disputed real estate on the planet? Think it's this? Or perhaps this? Let's try again. Could it be right behind me? Look closer. This is the Temple Mount, home to the ancient Jewish temples, or should we call it Haram al-Sharif, where Al-Aqsa Mosque resides. Even its name sparks a fierce debate. So why has this sacred ground treasured by both Jews and Muslims become a hotbed of conflict? I just spent the past few days underground. I explored the excavated tunnels beneath this contested site. I went with my son, it was amazing. I then went to the city of David and saw with my own eyes the pathway that the Jewish people walked up from to get to the temple. This history is wild. The Temple Mount, or Haram al-Sharif, encompasses an expansive 35-acre compound. Look at it, check it out. Dotted with structures of religious significance. Here, right behind me, we have the Dome of the Rock, a distinctive Islamic shrine that's become synonymous with the Jerusalem skyline. It's beautiful. Muslims believe Muhammad ascended to heaven from here during the night journey. For Jews, this is the holiest place on earth. More on that in a minute. Over my other shoulder right there, see, we find the Al-Aqsa Mosque, also a significant place of worship in Islam, drawing large crowds for daily prayers and Friday sermons. It marks the spot where Caliph Umar chose to pray, initiating the Islamic tradition at this location. For Muslims, it's the third holiest shrine, believed to be the destination of Muhammad's miraculous night journey from Mecca. And lastly, just below, we have the Western Wall, the Kotel, the last remaining remnant of the Second Temple from Herod. This site has deep significance for Jews as it is the closest accessible place to the Holy of Holies, the most sacred site within the ancient temples where they can pray. But a common misconception exists, which places the Western Wall as Judaism's holiest site. But in truth, the Temple Mount holds the title of the holiest site in Judaism. According to Jewish tradition, the very world originated from a foundation rock located beneath the temple. It's the place Abraham was asked to sacrifice Isaac. And the Dome of the Rock is said to be built directly on top of this sacred stone, making it the ultimate holy spot in Judaism. So there we have it. Two deeply spiritual spaces for Jews and Muslims coexisting within the Temple Mount. But this delicate balance also creates an insane amount of friction.
Up until a few years ago, Jews were not allowed to hold prayers there. Any Jew even suspected of doing so, even whispering a prayer, was detained and barred from the site.
The existing status quo at the Temple Mount permits Jews to visit, but prohibits them from praying there. However, the status quo has been shifting, with reports of Israeli police turning a blind eye to Jewish prayer at the site. Even Israeli public opinion on this rule has begun to evolve. The Jewish ban on prayer was once a matter of consensus, but today, more Jewish Israelis support allowing Jewish prayer at the site than oppose it. The Temple Mount has also been a controversial destination for Israeli political figures.
הר הבית זה המקום הכי חשוב לעם ישראל. הר הבית פתוח לכולם, עולים כאן מוסלמים, נוצרים, וכן, גם יהודים. בממשלה שאני חבר בה לא תהיה אפליה גזענית, ויהודים יעלו להר הבית.
Today, Israeli leaders' visits are still a source of controversy.
Itamar Ben-Gvir must not be allowed to visit the Temple Mount. It is a taunt that will lead to violence that would risk many and cost lives.
And understandably so, because when tempers flare and become uncontrollable, they can devolve into violent clashes between Palestinian rioters and Israeli police. During Passover last year, false rumors circulated in Palestinian media that Israel planned to permit Jewish sacrifices of Paschal lambs on the Temple Mount for Passover. A few days later, hundreds of Palestinians started throwing rocks and fireworks inside the mosque, while others hurled rocks down onto the Western Wall Plaza from the top of the compound. Israeli police waited until morning prayers at the mosque were over before entering the compound. Rioters retaliated by hurling stones and shooting fireworks at the police, leading to the arrest of more than 500 people and leaving 150 wounded in the ensuing clashes. There is a cacophony of noise surrounding the Temple Mount, making it arguably the most disputed real estate in the world. In 1967, Israel captured the Temple Mount from Jordan in the Six-Day War, and what transpired next was even more surprising. When Moshe Dayan, the defense minister, struck a deal with the Jordanian Muslim Waqf, who had previously controlled the site. In this deal, Jews could finally visit the Temple Mount and the Western Wall, from which they had been barred since 1948, and the Temple Mount would be under Israeli sovereignty and security. However, in an effort to diffuse tensions and minimize conflict, Israel relinquished administration of the site to the Waqf, allowing them to decide who could pray there and who could not. Ever since this moment over a half-century ago, Jews have been forbidden from praying at the Temple Mount. 3 years ago, Shana Hirsch, a Jerusalem resident, was visiting the Temple Mount and discussing the history of the temple in a Facebook Live video. While she was still recording, a Waqf security guard admonished Hirsch that it's illegal to claim that a temple ever stood on the Temple Mount.
It's not allowed to talk about temple. Here you are in the mosque. It's not allowed to say that temple and not facts, true thing.
I'm not allowed to say that there was a temple here?
Exactly. It's not allowed to record this live or do whatever you're doing.
She was subsequently detained by the Waqf. Reflecting on this incident, Hirsch highlighted the importance for Israelis and Palestinians to recognize each other's pasts. She wrote, "How can we talk about a shared future with partners who can't acknowledge we have a history? I am frustrated by how repeating archaeologically proven history can become politically charged and how easy it is to rewrite. So learn the history, have the facts, know the truth." And this brings me to my first takeaway. Jews and Muslims must acknowledge each other's histories. Each group can honor and take pride in their own connection while also acknowledging the others. Denying the Jewish people's inherent connection to this area and erasing history is not the path to a peaceful future. As Jewish people, let's understand our own history and challenge misinformation when we encounter it. The Jewish people's link to their holiest place is not a matter of debate. And also, the history of the Muslims being here is not a matter of debate either. Number 2, did Dayan make the right decision? Israelis hotly debate whether Moshe Dayan's decision to cede Israeli sovereignty over the Temple Mount was the right one, whether it was an act of wisdom and foresight or a sign of weakness when the Jewish state was at its strongest. And besides, who gave Dayan the right to make that call? How would today's reality be different if he hadn't made that decision? Would Jews now be able to pray freely at their holiest site? I don't know. Or would the mere act of Jews praying there have plunged the region into chaos? I don't know. Author Yossi Klein Halevi noted, in ceding the right of Jews to pray on the Mount, Dayan's intention was to minimize bloodshed and prevent the Palestinian-Israeli conflict from becoming a holy war. Reflecting on the past, Arik Achmon, one of the first Israeli paratroopers to enter the Old City in 1967, agreed with Dayan's decision. He said, "We were all in euphoria, and only Dayan was thinking with a clear head and understood the wider consequences. Can you imagine what the reaction would have been in the Muslim world if a photograph of that had been published? I'm proud that we raised the flag, and I'm relieved that we took it down." But many argue that this decision created an unjust reality, a viewpoint shared not just by those in any given political party. Despite supporting the status quo, former Israeli Prime Minister Yair Lapid admitted he found fault with the policy, stating, "I don't feel comfortable with the idea that Jews do not have freedom of religion in the state of Israel, and that Jews are banned from the site." So was Dayan's decision a display of prudent restraint, or was it misguided? And number 3, despite the tensions and clashes at the site, we must never lose sight of the Temple Mount's unifying potential. It's a space that holds immense significance to both Jews and Muslims alike. At the heart of it, this isn't merely about territorial disputes, but the shared spiritual connection to this sacred space. With respect, mutual acknowledgement, and dialogue, it's possible to find a balance that preserves the sanctity of the Temple Mount and honors its profound meaning to both faiths. Recognizing this shared spiritual legacy is the first real step toward a peaceful coexistence.